I just watched a video where someone was saying that as somebody with autism, they feel like the more people that they let into their lives, the more lonely they feel, even though people are constantly telling you that if you get more friends or you expand your friendship circle, like you'll feel better. And even though I want to validate anybody who's experiencing that, especially the person who did make that video, I also want to give a perspective that's not often talked about, especially when it comes to people with ADHD and or autism. And I'll go ahead and tag the original creator, but when it comes to my own experience, I have ADHD and I do have autism as well. And I have felt that feeling of just pure loneliness, like something is just missing. Like no matter how close I get to people, it's like they just do not understand me. And it does feel very isolating. It feels very overwhelming, hopeless. Like it's like, well, who's going to be that person? So when you put all that together and you have unmanaged ADHD and you have autism, you are the black sheep of the family. You are so misunderstood. You are punished for the symptoms that make you neurodivergent. Then it gets really hard not only to trust the people around you, like creating new friendships, teachers, whoever, but it becomes increasingly hard to even trust people that you're supposed to trust because your caretakers or family members aren't showing up for you either. And you're constantly learning how to mask and self-abandon for these other people. So as you get older and more trauma just compiles, you're like, well, I don't even think that I like people because all I've ever done is people please and mask and do everything I can to appease other people at the expense of myself and hating myself and being someone that I don't even recognize anymore. But I think that that becomes even harder because as you start to learn about your ADHD and or autism and you start to learn the symptoms, the signs, and then you go through things like burnout or skill regression because you are starting to slowly but surely learn how to unmask, I think we also need to take into account that you might have a skill regression in the way that you socialize, because all the ways that you have learned how to socialize is either isolating yourself because you don't want to mask, or you've been masking so much and going into codependent or people pleasing or even toxic behaviors because you're trying to protect yourself because everybody made you feel so bad for being ADHD and or autistic. And then obviously you start to think of all these patterns and all the way that you develop friendships and romantic interests or situationships and the situations that you get in when it comes to just relating to other people. And then you start to have these fears, you start to have these beliefs, these narratives, and these protective coping mechanisms that keep you kind of like paranoid about the idea of even being close to other people, even if you are somebody who's more anxious or avoidant. And it's like you so desperately want to be understood by other people because we've spent so much time studying everybody else that we're like, why is nobody doing that for me? Which then leads me into a phase that I feel like a lot of ADHD and or autistic people experience, especially when they start to unmask and start to recognize all the ways that they have self-abandoned, which is basically going from one extreme of being this people pleaser, this codependent, this person who's doing everything they can to get people to love them and accept them, to this other extreme of being this person who's really trying to heal, who's trying to unmask, who's trying to live authentically, who's trying to set boundaries, but you basically take that to an extreme because you have all this grief coming up from years of trauma and recognizing all the ways that you have self-abandoned and all the ways that people have harmed you, that you basically start to feel this sense of justice that is like, people are not treating me fairly. I need to make sure that everybody knows and I need to let them know right now. Instead of recognizing that you have a lot of grief that is boiling up that you need to work through, all that fear, that anger, all these beliefs, narratives, and things that are working against you that you developed as a way to protect yourself because you were trying to mask and be accepted and loved. So yes, you might be able to set these boundaries and standards that are going to help you keep away the people who are not meant for you, who are not compatible, who are harming you or do not care about who you are as a person. And instead of being able to see the full picture and recognize that yes, there is going to be grief because there are going to be people who are leaving our lives who are never meant for us, but there are also people who do love us who might be falling out or like having some distance between us because they're like, wait, you're not acting like you used to. And there's an adjustment period where those people who actually did care about you need to actually learn the real you. And something that I had to realize personally is that not only was it shocking and overwhelming for me to be reacquainted with the actual real me and start to understand my own like accommodations, needs and whatnot and symptoms of like ADHD and autism, but it's also hard for other people around me to understand that as well. And so because I was so distraught and overwhelmed and just freaked out because all the ways that I had self-abandoned, been hurt, all this trauma that happened and all the ways that I didn't have my needs met by myself and other people because I didn't understand my own ADHD and autism, I felt like no one else around me was understanding it either. So I started to self-isolate and I feel like a lot of other people will do that is they'll start to isolate, they'll start to become even more paranoid about other people, start to feel like unmasking was one of the worst things that they could have ever done, because whenever they were people pleasing, at least people liked them, and now people don't like them, or they're just acting weird around them. And then that just exacerbates the trauma that you already have around like relationships, friendships, and dynamics with other people, because you feel like people, no matter what, are not going to like you, especially if you're being yourself. And I feel like a lot of people who are ADHD and or autistic who go through this healing process, this unmasking process, and learning boundaries and learning how to stick up for themselves, because of that sense of justice and all or nothing thinking, start to look out at other people, even the people who care about them within their lives. And we almost get this like superiority complex of like, well, I'm healing, these other people are fake, they're not doing what they need to do for themselves. But really all that is just rebranded purity culture. And really what we're doing is just projecting our own shame of how we self-abandoned and all these other ways that we didn't show up for ourselves. And we're still dehumanizing ourselves and still falling into a little bit of like internalized ableism and projecting that onto other people and doing the same thing that people did to us by being like, these people aren't living the way that they should. Does that not sound familiar? Because people did that to us our entire lives, but now we're starting to do that to them. And to be honest, I think that that's just part of the process of grieving and learning how to work through these things. And maybe you do need to isolate or be a little bit angry at the world or a little bit paranoid or judgmental towards other people, because if that's what gets you to initially start setting boundaries, is being angry and grieving and sad and paranoid and start sticking up for yourself, that's great. But that cannot be your main motivator forever, because that's where a lot of us end up getting stuck. And then we go, well, ever since I unmasked, I've not been able to feel understood or loved or accepted by other people, and I've just felt lonelier than ever. Or at least that was the case in my experience. And again, everybody's experience is different. But something that's going to help with this, and it's the hardest thing to recognize when it comes to like unmasking and healing and working through trauma when it comes to relating to other people, whether that's platonic, romantic, whatever. But that is realizing that no one is going to accept and understand you at the depths that you wish they would, because that was the responsibility of your caretakers or parents to do for you and to teach you how to do for yourself. And the sad part is if we just would have been taught at a young age what our signs, our symptoms were, and we were told that that was okay, that we were unique, and that we deserved to have our needs fulfilled and accommodated, and learned how to do that for ourselves with the help of other people, or how to reach out to other people to get that help, then it wouldn't have been like this. And that is something that we're going to have to grieve, is the way that our caretakers and the people in our childhood let us down. But the longer that we hold on to that and not work through that grief, and also start to understand and accept ourselves and reparent ourselves in the way that we needed to be parented when we were younger, the longer that we're going to keep pushing away other people. And when I say that nobody's going to accept and understand you at the depths at which you wish that they would, because that's something that your parents should have taught you, I'm saying that a lot of us ADHD and our autistic people, when we feel that sense of loneliness that nobody understands and accepts us, it's because not only were a lot of us not taught about our own symptoms and signs and how to manage those and how to dismantle the shame around that and understand how to work with the fact that we live in a world that doesn't always accommodate our needs, and that it's okay for us to want to accommodate our needs and find ways to accommodate our needs. But we probably also didn't have role models or people around us who were helping us just understand that as a part of the human condition, you are constantly changing and evolving. So you're not even going to always know and understand every single aspect of yourself, because that's going to change every so often. So it's not to say that other people, whether romantic or platonic, aren't going to try their best to understand and accept you at deep levels, but it's being able to understand that not one person is capable of understanding and accepting every single last part of you. And I don't even know if we're capable of doing that for ourselves, and that's why it's so important to build community, because we're able to find little pockets from different people and different romantic or platonic relationships that help us understand and accept and evolve different aspects of ourselves, and we help others do that as well, while also learning to understand and accept and work with the change and evolution of ourselves. So I'm running out of time, but my main advice would be to learn how to reparent yourself, learn your needs, your signs, your symptoms, and learn how to accommodate your own needs, while also trying to accept and understand other people and understand what you need from people, what's enough, and what you can provide for people as well. So anyway, I'm sure that there's more that I could say, but if you have any tips or tricks or thoughts on this, just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I hope this helps at least one person. My name's Sarah. I'm your favorite self-experimenting coach or companion, and I help get people reacquainted with who they most authentically are. You're an amazing person, and I hope you have the best day.